Today's lesson is about animated charts in Excel and how a simple VBA code can help us achieve this kind of chart. If this sounds complicated to you, don't worry, we will go step by step. We use VBA to control the animation. Here we've got our source data, and here we've got our dynamic source data, and you'll notice that this is formula-based, which I'll explain later. This dynamic source data feeds the chart that we will create in a while. Also, we have a controlled cell that dictates what is displayed in these columns I, J, and K. In these columns, we've got an if formula, and it's deciding which data is displaying based on this value in controlled cell. Let's look at the formula. It uses the row function. The row function simply returns the row number that is inside the brackets. If that is blank, it returns the row number that the formula is in. We're in I3 cell, so it will return the number 3 as a row. If you highlight only the function and press F9, you'll see the result, which is 3. This is a nice trick to see part of the result of a large formula. So the formula says, if the value in E3 is greater or equal to the current row, then display the value of A3, and if not, then return hush and A. Remember, hush and A doesn't display in charts. The control cell has a value of 3, so it returns the value in A3, which is 52. If I change the value to 10, then it will display the values from I3 to I10. As the control cell counts up, more and more of these data here are slowly revealed, and that is how we create the animation of the chart. To complete the animated chart, we need 2 steps. The first step is to create the chart, and the second step is to create a VBA code that changes the value of the control cell from number 3 to number 38. Finally, with the help of a button, we will execute the VBA, and the chart will start to animate. Let's start from the first step. To create a clustered column chart based on these data and presented them in a particular format for each time period in a different color. Here we have a column for each year, 2017, 2018, and 2019. January in the second year is repeated from the previous column, and the same in the third year. This gives us a continuation of the chart without any gaps. So highlight the data table from G2 to K38. Click on Insert tab and select the clustered column charts. Move it somewhere there. Change the value to 38 so it will appear in all the columns. I will use formatting to give the illusion of one chart instead of 3 and give a continuous look. Right-click any of the series, Format Data Series, and increase the overlap percentage to 100%. Also, decrease the percentage of the gap width to 50%. Delete the legend, the grid lines, and the title. The chart is ready. Now it's time for the VBA. First, Developer tab, Macros. Name the new macro Animate. And make sure that the macro is in this workbook. Press Create, and it opens the Visual Basic editor. Now I will paste the code and explain it. Save it. Make sure that you save it as an XLSM type. which means macro-enabled workbook. Let's take a look at the VBA. We strongly recommend using Option Explicit at the start of your Excel VBA code. Using Option Explicit forces you to declare all your variables. Sleep is a Windows function and not a VBA function, but you still use this function in VBA code by calling the Windows Sleep API. Actually, sleep is a function present inside Windows DLL files, so before using them, you have to declare the name of API above the code in your module. The syntax of the sleep statement is as follows. Here, delay specifies the time in milliseconds till which you will have to pause the execution. The advantage of sleep statement over wait is that it is quite flexible, as you can give the time delay in milliseconds. While in wait function, you can only delay the application by whole seconds. Here is the name of the macro. If you change the name in the VBA editor, you need to reassign your macro to the button you're using to run the macro. Use the dim statement at the module or procedure level to declare the data type as a variable. For example, the following statement declares a variable as an integer. This is the number range you want the macro to scroll through. These are the numbers in your control cell. This is the worksheet name you want to control, which is Sheet 1. And this is the cell you want your control entered in. Finally, this controls the speed. The lower the number, the faster the chart scrolls. Okay, that's how the VBA works and how to update specific parts, like worksheet names and so on. I want to assign my macro to a button. Go to Insert tab, Online Pictures, and find a play button. Like this. Put it somewhere here, and with a right click, assign the macro. Now every time I hit that button, the macro runs and the animation of the chart is starting. So that's how you can do an animated chart. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial.